year right now. We're in 7th semester. I'm Andy's partner, so we are in the same classroom right down here in Mexico. And, well, it is a pleasure for me to be able to talk with you a little bit about how I decided to study medicine and how we are surviving right now in school. So, I'd like to share with you this. Well, I entitled my talk Medicine from a Med Student's Perspective because I think it is very important for us, as I think this is a very good activity for you to get to know the different professions and jobs out there, and to decide what you want to do with your future. So I wanted to first introduce myself. I am Mexican. I'm from this lovely city here, which is called Querétaro. It's right here in the middle of Mexico. We're very close to the capital, which is Mexico City. This is a lovely picture from our aqueduct, which was built very long ago, and there is a beautiful legend about it, a beautiful story about how it was built, but well, that is not the objective of today's chat. Today I want to talk to you about how did I decide to become a doctor, first and foremost. Well, I've always been quite a big nerd ever since I was in elementary school, and then from then on I've always liked to read in industrial quantities. I've always enjoyed studying. I've enjoyed learning new things all the time, and so that kind of leaned on me through my decision of what I wanted to become as an adult. Then, when I was in junior high school, I started watching a lot of TV shows. Particularly, I loved House MD, which is a show, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It is a show about a doctor who solves medical mysteries. And I fell in love with it because he was sort of a detective, a medical detective of sorts. And I've always loved detective stories as well, particularly Sherlock Holmes and all the CSIs, CSI Vegas, CSI Miami, CSI New York, Criminal Minds, all that stuff. I've always loved it, and I wanted to be first a crime scene investigator, but here in Mexico that is not a very good idea. So I decided, well, I want to be a detective, and I love medicine. I love the complexity of the human body, so I can study medicine, become a doctor, and I will be sort of a detective, right? So that's how I decided to study medicine, and I actually say it openly. I'm studying medicine because I want to be a Dr. House, right? I want to have a practice like him. I want to create sort of a department like his, because departments of diagnostics do not exist, and I think it is a very important thing. There are many patients all around the world who don't have a diagnosis for their diseases, and they are sick, and they stay sick till they die, and I think that is not appropriate. I think that we should, as human beings, be able to fix that problem. So that's what I want to do when I finish studying medicine, and that's why I decided to become a doctor. Now, how did I choose a medical school? Because when you're starting, your first question when you're in high school is, what do I want to be when I grow old, right? What do I want to become, right? An engineer, a doctor, perhaps a teacher. You know, you have to first decide what you want to do with your life. And it is not a decision you should make lightly. Okay, I must first ensure you that. Because what you decide now is what you will do for the rest of your life. Okay? Now, it is very important for you to think this through very carefully. There is no shame in deciding along the way that perhaps medicine is not the right thing for you, right? There's no shame in retreating from it. The objective of life is basically to be happy, and if you're able to, help others along the way. So, it is very important for you to take this decision very seriously. Take time. Do not be pressured into choosing a line of study, right? Take your time. It's very important that you ask yourself, what do you want to do with your life? And if you see yourself doing that for the rest of your life, okay, being happy for the rest of your life, doing things you do, if you have the opportunity to go with, perhaps not right now because of the pandemic and all that stuff, but if you have the opportunity to go with and accompany a doctor to their practice, perhaps go to a hospital and help out a little bit, so you can get closer to what a doctor really does, that would be great, because that is something that you must know. Medical school and medicine is nothing like the TV shows. That is something that you must know for certain. It is not Grey's Anatomy, it is not Doctor House, it's not The Good Doctor, it's not anything like that. Medical school and medicine is completely different. What you see on the TV shows is a romanticized version of what medicine really is. With medicine, you will be immersed in a world of, I must say it that way because it is the truth, you will be immersed in a world of human misery. Okay? People who are sick are miserable. They are sad. They feel vulnerable. And it is not as heroic as one might initially picture it. It is more of a hard work, a process of hard work that you have to walk on every day. It is very complicated because you will see people die every day. You will see people suffer and be in pain every day. You have to be very resilient. That is a very important word. But that means you must be able to confront your feelings every day. You will have feelings every day. And you must not let it affect you and your personal life. If you let it affect you, you'll get sick. You will harm yourself mentally. And you cannot help the rest of the people if you're not okay yourself. Now, I say that in a very fatalistic way, but it is the truth. Just as it's also true that you will see every day people getting better. You will see babies being born. You will see a grandfather being able to hug their grandchildren once again because they were cured from their cancer. So, medical school and medicine is practically a circle of life. You see the circle of life every day at the hospital. You see someone dying and you see someone being born. You see someone hug their father for the last time in their lives, and you see a new father giving the welcome to the world to their first children. So, it is very important that you think this through. If you want to become a doctor, you must be certain that what you want to do is this. Okay? Now, if you've decided that you want to become a doctor, you've had the experience, you've perhaps gone with a doctor and you love medicine, okay? You've decided you want to become a doctor. Now, you have to decide, where will you become a doctor? And that is very important as well. You have to choose a medical school, and it is not something that you should take lightly. You have to, first and foremost, think about what is the program of the school. The program is basically all the subjects that you will study along the way, right? If your school, the ones that you want to apply to study, I don't know, perhaps anatomy, biochemistry, physiology, microbiology, infectious diseases, endocrinology, all those subjects. Okay, so first, and that's the most important thing. What subjects will you study in medical? You also need to know how will those subjects be taught. Okay, here in Mexico we have a very sad situation in which we prepare classes. We are the ones who give the classes, the students. The doctors just give us basically they just give us a list of topics, and we must work with them. Okay, we must prepare the classes, we must do research, and with that we have to give the class to our classmates. And the teachers sometimes, more often than not, they do nothing else. Okay, so you have to take that into account. You don't want to go into medical school that does that. Okay, because being honest, we don't know anything as medical students. We don't know anything. We're learning as we go. We don't have experience. We've never been to a hospital before in our lives. So it is very unlikely that you will be able to teach others what you don't know. That's why you need teachers, right? So you have to take that into account. What is the educational system of a medical school you want to apply to? Okay? What else about the program? Also, the methodology of classes. You need to know as well the qualifications of the staff, right? Are your teachers specialists, or are they general practitioners? Do they practice? It is very important that your teachers have a practice, an active practice, because that gives them more experience that you can learn from, right? So it is very important that your teachers have a current active practice. Besides, you can get the chance if you know how to do a good job, that you can convince some of your teachers to let you go to their practice and learn from them. Right? So you need to know that as well. Perhaps you need to know if your teachers are researchers, right? If they do research. Medical school and medicine is a science, and science works with research. If your school doesn't do research, that is not a good medical school. Okay? Because it is not helping to grow the body of knowledge of medicine. Okay? That is about the program. Okay? Essentially, you will not know that and discover it unless you ask. And I would recommend you not ask the teachers of the school, ask the students. Okay? Because the teachers and the administrators of the medical school will tell you whatever you want to hear in order for you to go and put their money on their school. The students are the ones who will give you the real perspective of what it's like being in that school. Okay? Now, the second thing that you must take into account in order to choose a medical school is the cost. Are you able to afford it? Perhaps here in Mexico we have the blessing, because I think it is a blessing, that we have public universities. Okay? We have good public universities. And we also have some private universities as well. Now, what is the problem with public education? Most of the time, at least here in Mexico, and I'm going to talk about my experience here, all the administrative part of the school is protected by syndicates, okay? By unions of workers. And so if your teachers aren't good, they make you prepare the classes and you give the classes, okay? Perhaps they don't teach you, they don't arrive to the classes in time, they don't teach appropriately, whatever. You cannot complain, okay? Because if you complain, you are disposable. There are hundreds of students that would take your place gladly. And the professor is protected by the union, so he won't be punished or nothing, okay? So that is the main disadvantage of a public school. Besides, the facilities, which is the next point that I will talk about, how to choose medical school, facilities will be less, I wouldn't say luxurious, because you're not searching for luxury when you choose a school. You're choosing for facilities that will help you study appropriately. The thing is that you will have less facilities with a public education system because it is cheaper, okay? So I'm not saying that a private education is a better quality education. I'm just saying that you will have more tools to grow your knowledge. I go to a public school, and I've visited private schools before I decided to go to a public school because I noticed that, well, the family finances weren't prepared to deal with the cost of a private school, okay? Now, is that important? Will you be a better or worse doctor depending on where you study? No. Being a doctor depends on you. Even if your teachers suck, okay, it is up to you to learn appropriately. Okay? If your surgery teacher doesn't teach a thing, it is up to you to choose a book, sit down, read, go and learn in the hospital and educate yourself. You need to be self-sufficient in that way, okay? Now, you have to visit the medical school. Don't just let the pictures and internet fool you. If you're able, go and visit it. Take a tour of the school. Know where it is. That is important. If it is close to your home or you will need to rent, that is also added to the cost. Will you need to rent an apartment? Will you be able to live at home with your family? Will you need to buy food? Because there is nothing there to help you cook. I don't know. You have to take that into account as well. But well, the facilities. Are there dorm rooms in your university? Perhaps you do have dorm rooms in university and you can live in campus. Okay. Very important. Is there a cafeteria? Okay. Most of the time you won't have time to go back home to eat and return. You'll have to eat in campus. Okay. You have to know where the cafeterias are and where the good and cheap cafeterias are, particularly. You need to know how the classrooms are built, right? Do they have good acoustics? Will you be able to see the projector and the class from anywhere in the classroom? Or will you need to sit down in an appropriate position in order to see with detail the class? Okay, you need to know if you have laboratories, okay, the labs. How are they built, right? Do they have equipment? Are they equipped? Okay. Do you have simulators? Nowadays, medical education is built the early stages around simulation. Does your school have simulators? And if so, what is their quality? How many of them? Okay. Where they are? What are their conditions? Are they in good or in bad condition? Okay. So if you have simulators, another very important thing, does your school have a university hospital? What is a university hospital? A university hospital is a place where medical students from said university attend and learn. Okay. It is a hospital run by the university itself. The doctors there are professors in the medical school. The students there are from the medical school, and they generally are built within the campus. Okay? It is very useful because you are able to go and practice without having to travel a lot. Okay? We, in our medical school, we don't have a university hospital. So we have to transport ourselves to the different hospitals around the city. That takes time, and that time could be used to learn things, right? If you're in campus, you can just walk to the university hospital, maybe, 15 minutes walk, and you can learn there. Nowadays, you have to take, here in our medical school, depending on where you live, sometimes the hospitals are an hour away, perhaps an hour and a half away, so you have to sacrifice a class in order to arrive to the hospital. You have to take that into account. The university hospital makes a very good medical school. Generally, the best medical schools are the ones that have university hospitals. Okay? Does your school have research facilities? Something that is very important nowadays is that a medical school does research. Okay? It adds to your curriculum vitae, right? So you're more likely to be hired for a job. You have better opportunities to go abroad, perhaps study a master's abroad, if you've done research in your university. Besides, if your school does research, generally it receives more funds from the government in order to grow the body of knowledge, as I said before. So, does your medical school have lab research facilities? Okay. Now, that goes, as I just said, from the university hospital, the practice factor in this equation. Where will you practice? Okay. Does your school have a clinic where you can do clinic rounds? Do you have a hospital? How far away are the hospitals? Everything I've just said. Okay. Why? Medicine is not just about knowledge. It's not just about reading books. It's about doing things. You have to learn how to explore a patient, how to take a history. And how will you learn that? Well, only if you go and meet the patients. And the patients are in hospitals, clinics. So you have to know where to go in order to practice. And if your school provides that. Okay? Finally, other things. Well, does your university provide sports, right? Can you be part of a team, right? It is very important. There is a famous saying that the original saying is in Spanish. I will translate it and probably butcher it in the process, but the saying goes a little bit like this. He who only knows of medicine doesn't even know of medicine. Okay? What does that mean? If you dedicate yourself entirely and fully to only know things about medicine and you abandon everything else, you never touch again a history book, a physics textbook, perhaps a novel, you don't watch the news, you isolate yourself from the rest of the world, you won't be a good doctor. Part of being a good doctor is having a wide amount of culture in your brain, okay? The more you know, the better, because you will be dealing with other human beings. The only way to connect with other human beings is through their interests, right? Knowing and understanding them. And if you know about what they like, for example, if your patient is a young kid who plays football, perhaps the only way to talk to him and to convince him to tell you things you need to know in order to treat him is to talk with him about football, right? And if you don't know football, well, getting to know that kid will be very hard, and doing your job will become horribly difficult. So you need to have, that is why it is called a university, because it is a universal preparation. It is not just dedicated to one area. So you have to be able to know if you will be able to participate in sports teams, perhaps go into a cultural team, perhaps your university offers guitar classes or piano lessons, right? In the United States, if I'm right, I think they do something called minors. You can study like courses, not necessarily in your line of study, which would be your major, right? You can study, for example, I will be studying medicine and I want to study Latin.
for example, or Greek, because I'm a nerd and I want to read the Bible in Greek. I don't know. That is also very important, right? Does your school offer book clubs? Is your school close to, I don't know, if you like to go to parties, is it close to clubs? I don't know. Perhaps restaurants where you can go with your friends and talk, right? Medical school is also very hard, and you will need to get friends along the way. They will help you go through the difficult parts of medical school. If you don't have friends, you will go crazy, okay? So you have to be able to leave medical preparation and do something else, okay? That is also very important. Good. Okay, now, is applying to med school hard? Yes, it is very hard, but I'm just kidding, okay? Getting inside medical school is complicated only if you want it to be complicated, okay? It is difficult only if you want it to be difficult. The only thing that you have to do if you want to become a doctor is work and study and dedicate yourself to do the thing that you want to do appropriately, okay? If you have decided to become a doctor, it is something that I think should be done by all of us. You should be completely dedicated to medicine. I know that sounds a little bit contradictory with what I just said. You must be able to balance your life, but you must also know how much time to dedicate to medical school and how much time to dedicate for your spare time, okay? You need to dedicate yourself. If you want to get into med school, you need to organize yourself. Build a schedule, paste it on your wall, and work with it, okay? And attach to it, right? Wake up early in the morning, have a good breakfast, do a quick workout, take a shower because now you stink, and then go to school. And you have to hit the books really hard, okay? There is no way around it. There is no easy way around learning, okay? There are different strategies, there are different techniques, but in the end, it is just how much time you dedicate to study. If you want to enter to med school, you need to commit to it. When I say to my brothers and to my friends who are still in high school, some of them, what I tell them is if you want to become a doctor, you need to start acting like a doctor. You need to believe that you will be a doctor, okay? And so you have to act like one. You have to dedicate yourself entirely to it. You have to hit the books. You have to give all you've got in order to get inside med school. And once you're inside med school, then some, okay? It is not easy to remain in med school. It is quite complicated to study every day, to sacrifice hours. Perhaps you like to party a lot. You won't be able to party as much. Perhaps you liked being on a sports team. You will have to cut down on some of that, okay? Because you will become a doctor, and you will be working with other people's lives. People will put their lives in your hands, and you must be responsible and take that as a commitment to another human being. You will be tending for someone's mum, someone's dad, someone's son, okay? Your job will be very, very important in that way. You must be committed entirely, okay? So is applying to med school hard? Yes, if you don't prepare. Okay? It will be hard if you don't prepare. If you work really hard throughout your high school, throughout the preparation process in order to get into medical school, then it will be very easy, okay? I sort of think it like this way, right? If you work hard enough, and it sounds really magical, though. If it is your destiny to become a doctor, it will happen eventually if you work hard enough. If you don't work hard, it doesn't matter if it is your destiny to become a doctor, right? The universe doesn't give away destinies. You have to earn them, okay? So, is applying to med school hard? Yes, if you don't prepare yourself. Now, what do you study in medical school? Well, this is the program of my university, which is the medical school from the Universidad Autónoma de Querétaro. So we study for 12 semesters, okay? Actually, the ones in which we really study are from first semester through 10th semester. And I will explain what these two are later, okay? So, what do we have to study? What are the subjects that we review in my medical school? Anatomy, okay, all the structures in the body. Biochemistry, okay, so how our body deals with all the substances that we eat, basically. Embryology, how we are formed, right? The story of embryos. How are we formed? How is our nervous system created? How is our gastrointestinal system created? Histology, the study of tissues, okay? The things that make up organs. And, well, we review English, and this one is very interesting. It is a subject in which we have to integrate all the topics that we've reviewed in all of our subjects and explain with those a case, right? For example, you get children with diarrhea, so you have to explain why the kid got diarrhea from a histological point of view, from an embryological point of view, from a biochemical point of view, and from an anatomical point of view, right? It is a subject designed to help us learn how to think like doctors, because doctors think in a very particular way, okay? Now, in the second semester, we continue with anatomy, biochemistry, we go through neuroanatomy, right? And we start studying some history and philosophy of medicine. Then we review physiology, microbiology. You see, all of these, each one of these little blocks is a subject, okay? Right now I'm in 7th semester, so I'm taking these classes: endocrinology, nutrition, gastroenterology, surgery, infectious diseases, neurology, and I go to the hospital now, okay? So I go to practice hours in the morning. I go to see patients. I go to explore patients. I attend surgeries. I attend deliveries sometimes. Well, I don't attend them personally, but I can see how they deliver babies, and that is amazing, okay? And bioethics, which is very relevant nowadays, okay? So you have to, these programs are on the web pages of every medical school, okay? You can go to Harvard Medical School, look for it. You have to look for medical school program, Harvard, and it will appear, right? What subjects they take, in which semesters. Perhaps they take it in a yearly fashion, not in semesters, right? You can go into all the schools that you want. Look for this little page. Sometimes it tells you what they study, what topics they review, okay? Which textbooks they use. Sometimes it depends on the school, okay? The more information you have, the best, being honest, okay? Now, these two last semesters, in these two last semesters, you become an intern, okay? What is an intern? Basically, it is a slave for the hierarchy doctors, okay? You basically live. That's why you're an intern, right? It's sort of like a boarding school. You go to a hospital and you basically live there, right? You arrive there at 6 a.m. in the morning and you leave at 5:30 in the afternoon, and every now and then, like every 3 days, you have to stay all night, right? Because you will be on call and you will have to work with the patients and take care of them by yourself all night, okay? So this is basically where you become a doctor, okay? Where all the things that you've learned come into practice and take form. It's in this year. And then we have to take other 2 semesters in which we go to a rural community, and we are the doctors of that community. So you It's the first time in which you are by yourself, alone, without supervision, and you have to take care of the health of all of the members of that community. So it is a huge responsibility. That is why you have to dedicate yourself to learn everything very carefully. Okay? Now, I must make an observation here. In Mexico, our system of medical schools is different from that in the United States. If you're from the United States or you plan to study there, it is nothing like this. Okay? There, you have to first study a bachelor's degree in something. Okay? You can be a bachelor's in science, perhaps study biology, microbiology, whatever. You have to first get a bachelor's degree and then apply to med school. Okay? We don't do that. In Mexico, we go straight from high school to med school. Okay? Now, we do basically the same amount of time. Okay? We learn the same things, basically. The thing is, if you plan to study in the United States, it is much more expensive, and you first have to study a bachelor's degree, and then you apply for medical school through an exam called the MCAT, and then it's 4 years of medical school. Then you have to do some exams which are called the USMLEs, which come in steps. There are 4 steps, I believe, and then you can apply for your residency. Here in Mexico, we go from high school directly into med school for 7 years. In the case of my school, there are some schools in Mexico that just take 6 years. We do 7 years. And then we have to take another exam, which is called the ENARM, Examen Nacional de Aspirantes a Residencias Médicas. That is the exam in order for you to be able to study a specialty, in order for you to be able to do residency. Okay? If you want to become a resident, that is, if you want to become a cardiologist, if you want to become an ophthalmologist, an emergency physician, right? Those are called specialties, right? And so you will become a specialist. In order to be able to do that, you have to pass a test, which is called the ENARM. And it's a yearly exam. It's very hard. It's considered one of the hardest tests. I believe I read somewhere that it was one of the hardest tests in the world. Okay? Thousands of people, and I mean tens of thousands of people, apply it every year. And only about 500 people get in. Okay? So it is a very hard test. Very, very hard test in order for you to become a specialist. So that is why you have to learn as much as you can, the best you can. Okay? Now, is medical school hard? Yes, and I'm not kidding. This time I'm not kidding. Medical school is hard. It's not as hard as people make you think. And this takes me to this point. It is not as hard as you may think. We tend to want to fill roles in society. We see in television that medical school is hell on earth, basically. And it is, just not as bad as one might initially think. We are told that medical students have to drink coffee all the time because they never sleep. That medical students suffer and they don't have time to go to parties, they don't have time to do sports, they don't have time to have a girlfriend, they don't have time to have a boyfriend, whatever. Right? You don't have time to do anything with your life except medicine. You will cry every day like a little baby in your bathtub as you wash in order to be able to save time, right? It is not true. There will be days where you will want to do that, but that is not true for most of the time. Okay? I think if you want to take something from this chat, is don't fill the role. It's not as hard as you think. It is hard because you will be dealing with people's lives. It is hard. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth it. Okay? You have to dedicate yourself, yes, but it is not hell on earth, not at all. Okay? You just have to organize yourself. It is hard, to organize yourself, but it is not impossible. Okay? Don't fill the role that society wants you to fill. Enjoy medical school. You mustn't suffer medical school. You must enjoy it. It is, if you see it from my perspective, backwards, all the things I've suffered weren't really worth it. Okay? Better concentrate on the good things and dedicate yourself entirely, and you will do great. Okay? So it is not as hard as people think. Don't feel the role, because you will arrive to medical school and you will want to go sleepless for days. Your body is not built to run without sleep. You will want to go without eating for days. Your body needs food. You will want to drink gallons of coffee. Your body can only tolerate so much coffee. You will want to study all the time without resting. Your body needs rest. You need rest. You need to be healthy in order to make other people healthy. Okay? So don't feel that role. Be yourself. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the process. And you will do great. Now, what do you need to become a doctor? Discipline. You have to discipline yourself. If you're going to study medicine, you need to be disciplined. You need to build a schedule and stick to it. I will wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I will make my bed. I will work out. I will have breakfast. I will take a shower. I will go to school. When I arrive from school, I will start studying from this time to this time, and I will do homework from this time to this time, and stick to it. If you build a wonderful schedule but you don't stick to it, it is worthless. Okay? You have to be disciplined. If it is a time to study, do not check TikTok. Do not check Twitter. Concentrate yourself on what you're doing. Be disciplined. You have to do a lot of hard work. There will be times where you will be tired and you will have no other choice but to push through. You mustn't be afraid of doing hard work. There will be days, particularly when you start getting into the more advanced years, in which you will have to attend calls and you will have to stay awake all night and go to school next day. So you have to be accustomed and learn to deal with all the hard work that takes to be a doctor. You have to be responsible. You have to read all the topics beforehand. Okay, you have to read the texts before going to class in order to take the most advantage of the class as possible. You need to do all the homework that you have to do. You need to do all the research that you have to do. Okay? You have to be responsible. Be responsible with your academic life and with your professional life. Be responsible with your patients. If you promised them something, then you have to accomplish it. That is why we never say to a patient, you will be fine, because we never know if they will really be fine. And making a promise, well, you cannot break a promise to a patient. Okay? So you have to be responsible. You have to commit yourself. As I said, you have to be disciplined and committed to become a doctor. You have to develop compassion. Even though I love Dr. House, he's the worst doctor there could be, because he has zero compassion for his patients. Compassion and empathy are keys in order to be a good doctor. You need to be able to put yourself in your patient's place, how they feel, what they are experiencing, because we are healthy. They are not. They feel vulnerable. Something in bioethics we say that they are aware of their mortality. Once you get sick, you notice that you're not immortal, that you will die eventually. They are going through that. And most of the time they're alone. So they are sad, they are angry, they will be cranky sometimes. You need to understand that. And you need to do your best to make them feel better. Now, it is very important to not let those feelings that you will have, because you will have them, affect you. You need to be able to separate your life from your work. Because if no, you will fall into depression. Medicine is has the highest rate of suicides from all the lines of work out there. So you need help. Go with a psychologist, go with a psychiatrist, with a therapist, whatever you want to do. Just don't let the feelings that you will have for your patients get into your personal life. Okay, so you have to be empathetic, but you mustn't let it affect you deeply enough for it to damage you in some sort of way. You have to be passionate about your work. The only way in which you can become a doctor is if you're passionate about what you will do. It is the only way to go and to pull through medical school, through all those hardships. Only if you have passion, okay? If you don't have passion for medical school, if you don't have passion for medicine, better study something else. Go to another line of work. We are full of people who studied medicine just because their parents told them to, or because they wanted to make money, and those are the doctors that cause the most damage, make the patients the most miserable, and are completely useless at their job. A doctor that cures without making the patient feel better is worthless at his job. Okay? You have to be passionate about what you do. You have to be passionate about your patients. You need to be passionate about your studies. You need to be passionate in every step of the way in your life. If you are doing something and you're not passionate about it, then that means that probably isn't for you. Okay? You have to be curious. Okay? Being a doctor implies doing a lot of research, reading. Okay? You have to be curious in order to learn. You have to be honest. Particularly, you have to be able to know when your knowledge just isn't enough. And you have to be completely honest to your patient about it. You need to have the responsibility to be honest with your patient. To tell him, I have no idea what's wrong with you. I will send you to a different doctor who knows better. Okay? Now, you need to have love. Love for the patients. Love for humanity and love for what you do. It's basically passion again. You have to be ambitious, not in the monetary kind of way, but you have to be ambitious in the sense that you need to be aspiring to be better every day. There is a phrase from Saint Augustine that I love that says, if you're content with the way you are today, that means that you probably haven't reached your full potential yet. Okay? You mustn't never be content with who you are today, because you can always be better. You have to be happy with who you are, but not comfortable in the sense that I will no longer work to become a better person. There is always something that you can do better every day. You have to be creative to solve problems. You need to be humble to admit when you don't know things. You need to be respectful with the patients, with your colleagues, with your teachers. You need to be courageous. Being a doctor is not easy. It needs courage. To go through all the things that I've said, you will watch a lot of people die every day. You will see patients suffer. You will see patients be in a lot of pain. You will see terrible things. You need to be courageous in order to confront that reality. And to confront all the challenges that life poses to you. Perhaps you will have to go to a different city to study medicine. You have to be courageous to do that. You will have to start being more independent. Being independent is scary as hell. Okay? You will have to work hard in order to get to that. And finally, you have to have the desire to be a doctor. You need to want to be a doctor. If you would like being a doctor, that is not enough. You need to desire it with all your heart. Okay? Now, do you want to be a doctor? Well, these are two great examples of doctors, right? He's called Asclepius. He's the god of medicine. Saint. He's the patron of all doctors. Okay, and he is Saint Luke. He's one of the evangelists. He was a physician of his time. He is the saint that protects all the doctors, according to Catholic doctrine. Okay. So you want to be a doctor, you have to dedicate your life to it. You have to dedicate your life to your patients. Okay? Entirely. Well, that's all I have to tell you today. I would love to hear if you have any questions, and I will be, well, really happy to answer them.
I don't know you guys, but well, this is a great chance for all of you to ask those questions that you perhaps had and didn't ask before because you were as perhaps embarrassed to do so. But in this space, well, I believe that you don't have to be so flippant without it. Don't worry about it. As I said before, we are good people. Santi, as you guys have seen, is a really good student, is a committed student, and I know that someday he will be an amazing doctor. So go ahead, guys. Please ask anything you want to do. For example, well, tell me, Santi, how do you balance your life as a student, but also as a person? But
well, it's quite complicated to be able to do that. It's something that you learn along the way, I believe. You start to know what things are relevant and what things are irrelevant in your life, some sort of way. You have to learn to know what you really need, and those are the things that you have to keep. For example, I wouldn't advise anyone if they go to a gym. Well, you shouldn't be going to a gym right now. There is a pandemic going on. But if you work out, don't stop working out. Perhaps just if you are doing, I don't know, if you're doing exercise for 2 hours, perhaps you have to cut a little bit on it, right? So it's quite complicated to know how to balance your life. But I think what I do personally is I have one day a week in which I don't do anything about medical school. Right? I watch movies, I watch TV shows, I eat popcorn like crazy, right? I play video games all that day, and I don't think at all about school. The rest of the days I commit myself to study. But it's quite hard. You have to find the point in which you feel happy with yourself and you feel like you're doing all you can in order to be better, right? It is complicated. I think I haven't actually been able to balance my life, as being honest, right? I'm still working on it. I'm experimenting this semester with that technique of one day a week of rest, total rest, right? Also, I use a lot of the Pomodoro technique, in which you study for 25 minutes, you rest 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, and then 15 minutes rest. I find that very useful as well. It helps me because perhaps, I have some sort of ADHD, something like that, and so I need to focus on short spans of time. I cannot keep concentrated for a very long time. So, yeah, it's something that you have to work on every day. Perhaps that would be my best advice. Figure out what's the most important things to you and keep those. And you have to start trimming some things. Eventually, you will have to trim down some things. Perhaps you went to practice, I don't know, you went to extracurricular classes of another language or something, sometimes you have to trim those, and they will have to wait to another moment in which it is more appropriate. It is complicated.
Well, and also, Tene has a question, and they say, how do you learn to discipline yourself?
That is a very good question. The only way in order to discipline yourself is to know yourself, okay? We, in our daily life, we tend to procrastinate a lot, right? We tend to do that a lot. You have to learn to identify when you're procrastinating, right? And the hardest thing is to stop procrastinating, because I think, and I'm talking from a procrastinator's perspective, the hardest thing to do is, you notice you're procrastinating, to stop and do something about it, because we tend to acknowledge the fact that we're procrastinating, accept that fact, and stay procrastinating for the rest of the day. I'd say start with little steps, right? Perhaps start with sticking to your schedule, right? Commit yourself to waking up at the same time of the day and making your bed. I don't know, that helps a lot. It has helped me a lot, right? I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and I make my bed, right? And that sets me in the mood that it's another day, we have to go to work again, right? Perhaps you can do some sort of, I don't know, it is a ritual in some sort of way, right? To clean your room, or wake up every day and go to your workout of the day, right? Start with little things. Don't expect to be a master of discipline from one day to the next. It takes time, okay? But you have to be able to work through it slowly with those little things. Then perhaps start. I will read from this hour to the next.
Santi,
Right?
I need
Yes.
to cut you off because, well, the time is running out. So, guys, if you have any more questions that you would like Santi to answer, please write it down in the Discord channel, and well, thank you. Me sentí como si estuviera narrándote una carrera. Gracias, Santi. Muchísimas gracias, amigo, de verdad. Vales como 1000, 10,000.